Dr. Jeffrey Life was one of the first physicians that embraced age management medicine that I started reading the works of and learning about. Well, actually with him, it wasn't that I was reading his works. I learned about him through his company, Synergenics, and I set away for the free packet, which really gives you all the information you need to know, particularly if you're young, to help manage your health, which with what later became the Life Plan, or what I believe later became the Life Plan. Very similar diet and exercise regimen. So his early career, Life began his career as a resident at West Virginia University, focusing on family medicine and internal medicine. He continued his career as a full-time family physician while also serving as a part-time assistant professor at Marywood University in Pennsylvania. He taught graduate courses in nutritional science and exercise. He is the director of medical services for the Life Center for Healthy Aging in Charleston, West Virginia. And I would recommend people buy all of his books and read all of his books. You can get them quite affordably used. So you have the first book, The Life Plan, was released in 2011 and became a New York Times bestseller. He followed it with Mastering the Life Plan, and in 2013, his third book, The Life Plan Diet, in 2014. He has appeared on The Dr. Phil Show, Inside Edition, The Doctors, The Steve Harvey Show, Anderson Cooper's AC 360, as well as other shows. He is a medical doctor from the University of Iowa. He did his residency in West Virginia University, PhD from the University of Michigan in Environmental Sciences and Health. Life is board certified in family medicine. Now, before I continue with this video, I want to make sure that people understand I am not a doctor, I am not a physician, I am not a chiropractor, I am not a nutritionist, I am not a dietitian, I do not have any healthcare credentials. So these are Dr. Life's guiding principles. The guiding principles that have been an integral part of his healthy aging practice since its inception also apply to his writings and web-based businesses. His very first and foremost principle is that he will always demand the highest ethical behavior of himself, of his staff, and of his organization. The second is that he will educate, advocate responsibility, and vigorously work hard to improve the health and well-being of all of his patients, readers, and customers. This means that his recommendations must be based on the very best, most accurate, and most current scientific information available. It also means that his recommendations will center on what he has and will continue incorporating into his own personal lifestyle to help him achieve and maintain the great health and fitness that exemplify healthy aging. Lastly, he pledges that he will work relentlessly to continually improving what he does, both professionally and personally. Okay? So that's important to understand. So here's a promotional video we're going to watch right here at the bottom. I have not watched this yet. I don't know what it's about.
I'm Dr. Jeff Life, and I'm going to change your life. Age is a state of mind. You don't have to look old. I'm 73.
Now this is what's important to understand. He's now in his 80s. But what you have to understand, what makes him so interesting, I think it was at the age of 58, he started on his health journey on reversing the aging process, which he did do a very good job of, particularly with reversing sarcopenia and adiposity, body fat, building up of body fat. He reversed the aging process on himself. A lot of people talk negatively about the hormone treatments he's used, but what people have to understand, his use of hormone treatments is to get one's hormone levels at that of a healthy young adult, not ridiculous, not abusing these drugs that honestly are life-changing substances that could really benefit the elderly and benefit people with growth hormone deficiencies. But mostly what you really need to understand, and when it comes to age management medicine, things like growth hormone, DHEA, these things, testosterone, these are underutilized because physicians and patients are so terrified of them by the abuse of these substances by people in the sports industry, and the issue, and also things like pro wrestling and things of that nature. But the issue is not that these drugs are being used. The issue is that they're being abused by certain people. But these drugs are things that are really beneficial to people's lives. Even Dr. Atkins and Dr. Atkins' Age-Defying Diet, which is a book I really recommend people read. But he talks about hormone replacement therapy and how to use hormonal replacement therapy and how to talk to your doctor about it also. So it's not like this is new stuff or that it's uniquely dangerous or anything like that, as long as it's being managed properly under the care of an actual physician that knows what they're doing.
I feel better than I did when I was in my 30s. I look forward to every birthday. I've had a few patients that use their age as an excuse. I say, work out with me. I'm 20 years older than you are. There's no way they can use that excuse. Are you man enough to hang with me?
So this is Dr. Life's YouTube channel, and I want to be sure that people understand this. This gentleman is humble. He is not arrogant. He does not throw his education in people's faces, although he probably doesn't remember because I was probably just one of a gazillion people he was friends with on Facebook. He actually accepted my friend request on Facebook. He was friends with me on Facebook. He's not an arrogant person by any stretch of the imagination. He is truly somebody that seeks to help his patients, as is obvious by what he is doing. Okay, and I think a lot of people take a lot of things out of context when they see somebody like him. But the point that I would like to make is this gentleman reversed the course of his life. If you look at the pictures of him when he was 58, he probably didn't have very long left. He was very out of shape, and he reversed that. How did he reverse that? By signing up with a personal trainer. So here's one video. I'm not gonna go through all these, but this is him talking about sugar addiction, which is a very big problem.
Hello, my name is Dr. Jeff Life. Today I'm going to answer some questions that many of you have submitted that deal with alcohol and sugar addiction. The first question is, what if you are ripped? Does alcohol still counteract the results you've achieved and interfere with your health and well-being? The answer to this is yes, absolutely it does.
Now, this is important to understand. People might know who Kenneth Cooper is, but Kenneth Cooper recommends against the use of alcohol, despite the fact that very, very, very moderate alcohol use does benefit the heart. What people need to understand, alcohol in general, regardless of how much you're drinking, is a carcinogen. Okay? People wouldn't tell you to just have a cigarette or two. You know what I mean? So you have to keep that in mind. Alcohol does have lasting deleterious effects on the systems of the body. But I'm going to let Dr. Life, who's a medical professional, explain this.
Anyone that has achieved leanness to the point that they are ripped and shredded and have plenty of muscle development has worked hard at controlling what they put in their mouth, at eating clean and doing the right kind of resistance training to achieve muscularity and leanness. A lot of people that achieve this then celebrate by drinking a lot of alcohol and think they can continue to drink alcohol and maintain what they've achieved. Alcohol lacks nutrients, provides a lot of calories without the nutrients. And so when anyone does this, they are robbing themselves of essential nutrients by not eating healthy foods. Instead, they replace that with alcohol. This ultimately will result in sabotaging what they've achieved, and not only their appearance, but it will interfere with their health and well-being and put them at great risk for inflammation and cardiovascular disease. The next question is, what would the benefits of eliminating beer or any alcohol from your diet for a 4-week period. My husband has done this at the advice of our obstetrician because we are trying to get pregnant. My answer to this is that if your husband is consuming a lot of alcohol and is able to stop it for 4 weeks, it takes more than 4 weeks to have an impact on the health and well-being of his sperm. So if he's going to do this, seriously, he needs to, I'd say, not drink any alcohol for a 3-month period. And then after you become pregnant, he really needs to stay away from alcohol if he has a problem with it. And a lot of people have problems with it, as I've talked about before.
And this is important to understand. People think that if they're not a raving alcoholic or they're not addicted to alcohol, that they can have alcohol. My opinion is like that of Ellen G. White or Dr. John Harvey Kellogg. I think everybody is better off staying away from alcohol. Now, I used to be a drinker. I preferred to drink wine and certain brands of beer, but mostly wine. And that's the thing, is people think that you can drink alcohol and be healthy. You really can't. When it really comes down to it, you really can't drink alcohol and be healthy, despite the fact that people are promoting this moderate alcohol nonsense. It's because people like to hear very good things about their very bad habits. And alcoholism, like smoking, is a bad habit, and it doesn't need to be normalized. I'm not against people choosing to drink alcohol, but people that choose to drink alcohol have to understand that they're choosing to do so at the detriment of their health. And that's my opinion, but I'm going to let Dr. Life continue.
And you should not drink any alcohol at all during your entire pregnancy. The last question is, how do I overcome sugar addiction once and for all? And I provided a slide entitled Breaking Sugar Addiction. And the first thing you need to do is to really get involved with an exercise program, a healthy exercise program that includes plenty of cardio and resistance training. These have positive effects on how you feel, which I'll talk about in a few minutes, but it also helps you, it helps you eat clean when you're making progress with all the other things that you're doing. Next is I have a list of things that can be done to boost your serotonin levels. Serotonin is a feel-good hormone. And when you have adequate serotonin levels, you feel good about yourself, you feel good about everything you're doing, you feel good about your world. When you don't have very good serotonin levels, then you tend to eat bad and eat carbohydrates, comfort foods that jack up your blood sugar. So, these are the things you can do to improve your serotonin levels. First, get really good sleep, plenty of sleep, 7 to 8 or 9 hours of quality sleep. Next, eat.
Remember that rest is one of the 8 Adventist laws of health. Keep that in mind. Rest and sleep. Just keep that in mind, because you'll notice that a lot of people that are at the cutting edge of anti-aging research are revisiting the concepts of the 8 laws of health as practiced in Seventh-day Adventism and as practiced in Biologic Living by Dr. John Harvey Kellogg. The difference is now we have the science to prove why, not just that it does work, because we knew it worked, because Seventh-day Adventists live longer than other people, but now we're beginning to find out the why it works.
Proteins with every meal. Protein really replaces the carbs that jack up your blood sugar.
Now, this is something that you should note. If you eat a high-protein diet, you will notice that you have very little hunger. That's just the truth. If you eat a very high-protein diet, you will have very little hunger, regardless of whether it's a ketogenic diet or not. If you're eating a sufficient amount of protein, regardless of where that protein is coming from, you will notice that your hunger goes right away. It's very interesting. I've noticed that with high-protein diets. That's one of the reasons I had to go back to high-protein veganism, was because, as I said, when I practiced the starch solution, John McDougall's starch solution, it had destroyed my body. And I had to get back to high-protein veganism simply to benefit myself, to reverse a lot of the problems. My triglycerides had gone up from a high-starch diet, things of that nature, which I had to start eating a lot more healthy fats and things of that nature, such as canola oil, olive oil, corn oil. These things helped to reset my dyslipidemia, which was caused by the starch solution, not by a high cholesterol diet, not by a high fat diet, and keep in mind, I did this all while remaining vegan. And Dr. Life's book, the Life Plan Diet, and the Life Plan for that matter, his cardiac diet he offers the cardiac diet, which is actually the diet I think absolutely everyone should be on. You might as well do the best if you're going to do anything. But if you do his cardiac diet, it's essentially a vegan diet with a little bit of fish and I believe a little bit of egg whites and some whey protein and things like that. But he promotes a vegan diet in the Life Plan diet, okay, and in the Life Plan, which is the cardiac diet. And I think that's the diet, like I said, everybody, if they read his book, that's the diet everybody should strive to be on. They shouldn't be messing around with, I shouldn't say messing around. All the diets in his book will promote health, but that one will promote health in the most drastic way. And in my opinion, everyone should be on his cardiac diet if they're going to do the Life Plan. And that's my opinion, not his necessarily, but that's my opinion, because if you're going to do it, you should do the best. You should do the most aggressive thing you can do to get healthy.
And plus, the protein is really vital to having good serotonin levels and being able to build muscle and strength. Next, manage your stress really well. Stress management is an important part of maintaining.
I want to point this out too. Gabrielle Lyon, which I don't have an issue with Gabrielle Lyon, except for the fact that she seems to have a orgasmic reaction to trying to convince vegans that they can't get enough protein in their diet to build muscle, which is not true. Dr. Life has shown that, as well as other people that are vegan bodybuilders and stuff have shown you can get more than enough protein in your diet to build muscle on a vegan diet, on a 100% vegan diet. But the thing is, Gabrielle Lyon is the one that started muscle-centric medicine, she calls it. Dr. Life was talking about muscle-centric medicine, in a sense, long before Gabrielle Lyon was. And what that was is the reversal of sarcopenia through proper diet and through vigorous exercise. Okay, so keep that in mind. I want to make sure people understand that. And I like Gabrielle Lyon. I do. I just think that she's a little kooky with her hatred of veganism, which I think what people should be doing. And I'm going to get into this too. Actually, I'll get into it right now. What you need to understand about a vegan diet, with a carnivore diet, for example, a carnivore diet is a single diet. It's a very restrictive diet based entirely in protein and fat. With a vegan diet, you can manipulate a vegan diet's macros to fit any health concerns, whether it's diabetes, where you have to lower carbohydrates, and I think everybody should eat moderately on the carbohydrates. They should go moderate on the carbohydrates. Or whether except fiber, which is considered a carbohydrate. And I'll get into that right now too. So when you count carbohydrates, you should always subtract the fiber from total carbohydrates. They're counted as a carbohydrate, but they're not really a carbohydrate in the sense that they act to nutritionally, they act to stabilize blood sugar, and they also feed the microbiome. So they're not a carbohydrate as, say, the starch in a potato or the starch in white bread or something like that. So the fiber is not a normal carbohydrate that's going to be converted to sugar. But you can also have very high carbohydrate vegan diets. You can have very high protein vegan diets. You can have very high fat vegan diets. That is the problem with a vegan diet, is it is more similar to an omnivorous diet in the sense that you can manipulate the macros of a vegan diet much easier than you can manipulate the macros of a carnivore diet. Okay? And of course, you can't really manipulate the macros of a ketogenic diet, or that would defeat the purpose of a ketogenic diet. For example, the Zone diet and the Atkins diet, which are two popular diets for weight loss can be done completely vegan. People don't know that, but they can be. Hence the Eco Atkins diet, and hence the Zone Vegan diet. And people should learn about Barry Sears to learn more about the Zone diet. But my point is with a vegan diet is far more adjustable to one's nutritional needs than is, say, a carnivore diet. And we're going to move on now.
Good, healthy serotonin levels in avoiding cravings. Next, daily exercise, which I've already talked about. Exercise is a huge promoter of healthy serotonin levels. Next, you need to drink plenty of water throughout the day. Next is to have great relationships with your friends, your colleagues, and your significant other. Get outside and get sunshine. Sunshine is a really good...
Remember that sunshine is also one of the 8 Adventist laws of health. As I said, we keep revisiting the 8 laws of health. We keep revisiting them because they extend life. Whether we're finding it out through science or we're finding it out by the fact that people have practiced it and seem to live longer, it doesn't really matter. But the science is, again, giving us the whys. The vitamin D production, the serotonin production. It's giving us the reasons why, not just the fact that it does work.
Promoter of serotonin levels. And last, maintain good GI health. Make sure you take probiotics so the bacterial flora in your GI tract is healthy and producing all the things that help improve serotonin levels. Lastly, totally stop white foods. Basically...
Now listen very carefully to what he's saying, because this is very important. You have to stay away from these simple carbohydrates. Listen to what he says here.
I mean, everything except cauliflower. Cauliflower does not jack up your blood sugar, but almost all the other white foods are processed foods that jack up your blood sugar. Eat low glycemic carbohydrates. High glycemic carbohydrates jack up your blood sugar. And you can go to a glycemic index, Google that, and you can see the numbers, the amounts of...
Now, I want you to be very careful that you understand this. He's not making any money on these videos. He's promoting what he promotes, but he's not making a cent on what he's promoting here. He is helping people get healthy for free. He's just putting these videos out there. Okay, keep that in mind. I want people to keep that in mind so they can understand this gentleman's mindset.
And you can go to a glycemic index, Google that, and you can see the numbers, the amounts of the glycemic index for all different kinds of carbohydrates. And you want to stay below 50. And avoid all sweets, things that jack up your blood sugar. And sugar substitutes. Sugar substitutes can mimic sugar, and your brain perceives it as sugar, and this can...
Now, that's one thing I don't agree with him on, but, I'm not going to argue that right now.
Impact your serotonin levels and other things. So that does it for today. I look forward to talking to you all again soon. In the meantime, do everything you can to make the rest of your life the best part of your life.
Now, I talk a lot about this. Dr. Sean Baker talks a lot about this. A lot of people talk a lot about this. And this is about the obesity epidemic in America. And people really need to hear this. And Dr. Life's going to talk about it. I figured I'd just cover this real quick. And then I'll get into some older stuff. Talk a little bit more about some of the other stuff he did. But I thought I saw this and I figured, you know what? Why don't I put this in here? This is important. A lot of people are talking about this. A lot of people need to hear this. Dr. Ford Brewer, he's another one that talks about this. It's very important that people hear about the obesity epidemic. It's an unnecessary crisis. Really, it's a national security crisis, it's an educational crisis, it's a quality of life crisis, it's a medical crisis. This is something that people need to hear again and again and again and again until they actually take action and help themselves.
Hello, Welcome everybody. I'm Dr. Life, and this is the second video of my video series that is a weekly video series designed to help people live healthy, long, productive lives. Today's topic is obesity, which is a topic that is very near and dear to me. I have suffered from obesity for the better part of my life. Really, I struggle daily, really every day, to keep body fat off. And if I did whatever I wanted to, I would weigh 250 pounds. So it's not only an issue for me. It turns out that 74.9% of adults in the United States are either overweight or obese. So it's a huge
74% of adults, almost 75% of adults are overweight or obese in the United States. That's a crisis. That is a crisis.
Problem in America. So how do you know if you're overweight or obese? Well, the traditional way we've used and medical science has used is the body mass index. Body mass index really is calculated by looking at someone's height and weight. That's the only thing that is looked at. Muscle mass is not factored in, body fat's not factored in, simply height and weight. Gender does not factor into it either. So using the equation that I have on this slide, you can calculate your own body mass index. If you're less than 25, then that is considered healthy. But that can be deceiving. There are people that we now call normal weight obese. These are people that have very little muscle mass and a lot of body fat. It can also be deceiving if you fall into the overweight or obesity category, because you could have a lot of muscle mass. Athletes get penalized this way. And I have to write for someone that's getting life insurance, if they're really athletic and have low body fat, I have to write a letter to their insurance carrier telling them that even though their BMI is elevated, they are a healthy weight. So if you're above 25, that's considered overweight, between 25 and 29. If you're between 30 and 34, that is considered class 1 obesity. If you're 35 to 39, that's class 2 obesity. And if you're greater than 40 or greater, then you're class 3. And in medical lingo, we call that morbid obesity. So why is body fat so important? Well, we now know that by 2030, it is predicted that half of our U.S. population is going to be obese if we keep going the way we are headed.
And I want to point out, I want to use this to factor in one of the problems I have with Dr. Walter Longo's book. And a lot of these people, the gerontologists that are saying that you want to have a slightly bigger belly when you get older. No, you don't. The thing is, it was determined that people that are thin when they get older tend to suffer from frailty and die of all-cause mortality easier than those that are a little bit bigger. Well, duh, the reason why is because what goes with a thinner belly when you get older? Malnutrition. Okay. However, if you're following one of the three diets in the life plan, you're not going to suffer from malnutrition. Okay. That's just the truth. And you're not going to suffer from a bigger than average belly either. Okay. So that's important to understand. That's one of the problems I have with Dr. Walter Longo's longevity diet. Otherwise, I like the diet. I think that Walter Longo's a genius. I think that's obvious that he's a genius. But, I really think that people should be listening more so to somebody like Dr. Life than somebody like Dr. Walter Longo if they really want to change their health. And like I said, I like Walter Longo. I love my gerontology friends. Walter Longo was never technically a friend of mine. on Facebook or social media, but I don't disrespect him. I'm just saying that you have to use some common sense when you're thinking, well, okay, people with smaller than average waists seem to die of all-cause mortality when they're older. Well, why? What causes a smaller than average waist? It's not good diet and exercise. It's a lack of proper diet in the elderly that causes a smaller than average waist. However, as Dr. Atkins and other people have pointed out, there's a lot of ways to lose weight. Cocaine and cigarettes help you lose weight. That doesn't mean that that's how you should be losing weight, nor is anorexia a way to lose weight. Now, I do promote caloric restriction like Roy Walford did, but, I think that what you have to understand is there are many ways to lose weight. Not all of them are healthy. Anorexia is not healthy. Okay, so what happens with these older adults, and it's not anorexia nervosa, it's physiologic anorexia in the sense that a lot of people, as they get older, they start losing their sense of smell. Their sense of taste goes with their sense of smell. They don't like the taste of food. They don't have the appetite they used to have. They don't eat as much, or they're eating foods with more aggressive flavors so that they can taste them, and it's not beneficial to their health. This is common sense. You don't need a medical study to prove that the reason people get thin and frail as they get older is not because that they're following a healthy diet and exercise regime. It's because they're doing quite the opposite. They're not eating enough. But let me let Dr. Life continue here.
So why is this a big deal? It's a big deal because body fat is the primary cause of inflammation in our bodies. And the more body fat we have, the more inflammation we have. And this is silent inflammation. It really turns out to be the root cause of all of the age-related diseases, like heart disease and heart attacks, strokes, cancer, dementia, joint disease, muscle loss, erectile dysfunction, all the bad things that we all want to avoid, all the things that are associated with aging. But, as I keep saying, we're all going to age, but we don't have to get old. It turns out that the loss of adiposity, which is body fat, a fancy word for body fat, especially visceral adiposity, that's fat inside your belly and around your organs, is the most critical factor in reducing inflammation. And so
So keep that in mind. Losing belly fat is the most effective way to knock back inflammation.
Operate on the policy or the philosophy that what you put in your mouth can either heal you or kill you. So when you go to put something in your mouth, you got to think about it before. And is this going to help me or is this going to hurt me? And that's really the bottom line. So keep on doing all the things you need to do to make the rest of your life the best part of your life.
So this is from the company Life Extension. This organization was founded by Dirk Pearson and Sandy Shaw years and years and years ago. I don't know who's running it now. It's not Dirk Pearson and Sandy Shaw, though. I know that because now it's a company. It used to be an organization. But okay, so at 59 years of age, fitness celebrity doctor. This goes back to 2011. I want you to understand this is the beginning of his health journey. So he was obese and pre-diabetic with high cholesterol and low energy. Today, at a robust 72, the former grand champion in the 1998 Body for Life contest boasts a rock-hard physique and the know-how to apply the principles of body transformation, which is essentially applied bodybuilding. It's bodybuilding for health is what he's doing to his medical practice. Here he reveals the cornerstones of his fitness regime, including supplementation with vitamin D3, coenzyme Q10, saw palmetto, lycopene, and French maritime pine bark, and hormone replacement therapies. Okay, that's reviewed it. At age 59, at 59 years old, Dr. Jeffry Life felt like a middle-aged man tumbling gut first into a limited lethargic old age My joints and muscles ached. I had shortness of breath whenever I climbed just one flight of stairs. My clothes were tight and my stomach was huge. Physically, Dr. Life was in decline. Internally, the outlook wasn't much better. His cholesterol scores were dangerously high, and he was on his way to becoming a type 2 diabetic. He was also suffering from low self-esteem and erectile dysfunction. Then one day, as Dr. Life describes it, he took a long, hard look in the mirror and realized that if he didn't begin focusing on his own health, there would be no future. When Dr. Life decided to take control of his health, he wasn't coming from a strong athletic background. He had been a master swimmer years before, but he got caught up with his medical practice, and as happens with most people, little by little he started letting his health deteriorate. The first thing he did was revamp his diet, which over the years began trending toward fast food and high-fat, high-carbohydrate meals. I put myself on a low-glycemic, low-fat diet, Dr. Life says. It was a bodybuilder's diet. They were way ahead of everybody else. Keep that in mind. It was a bodybuilder's diet. They were way ahead of everyone else. It was a bodybuilder's diet. They were way ahead of everyone else. Keep that in mind, okay? It was all about how to gain muscle mass and drop fat. Most people who were exercising were simply following the conventional rules of a low-fat diet, but that wasn't the best approach. Between the exercise and the new diet, Dr. Life began to see results almost right away. He was dropping fat he says, I was dropping fat pretty rapidly. He says, I was surprised, really. In addition to eating and exercise, Dr. Life began taking supplements to augment his overall health regime. He took a multivitamin as well as creatine, fish oil, hydromethylbutyrate, and that's a byproduct of leucine. I can explain that later. Regular leucine, I think, is just as good, actually better because it's cheaper. The routine worked, and Dr. Life became the grand champion in the 1998 Body for Life contest. The before and after pictures of Dr. Life are remarkable to look at to this day. From bulky and puffy to rock solid and ripped in less than 6 months. Passing it on, Dr. Life was so pleased with the results of his regime and felt so good that he decided to incorporate the lessons he learned in his own body transformation into his medical practice. That's one thing that more doctors need to be doing. When I won the contest, I was doing family practice in Northeast Pennsylvania. Life says the patient population was simply not receptive to changing things. It wasn't until I moved to Las Vegas and started doing age management that I found clients who were willing to listen. Maybe there's something to that. That's where Dirk Pearson and Sandy Shaw live too. My patients in Nevada really want to lose body fat. Most try to stick to the program and have certain levels of success. Some are super successful. All have improvements in their health. One of the staples of the supplement regimen that Dr. Life preaches to his clients is the use of whey protein. Protein is very important. Okay, that's something I forgot when I went on that stupid starch diet. Okay, don't go on a starch-centered diet. Okay, I can encourage everybody not to do that. He says, in my medical practice, I am big on pretty hefty protein intakes, he explains. Elderly people don't take in enough protein and they start to become frail. Muscle loss is considered to be part of the aging process, but it doesn't have to be. Aging is not inevitable. You can actually do things that will prevent muscle loss, like take whey, meaning take whey protein. My patients demonstrate this on a daily basis, and I do too. I've put on over 4 pounds of muscle in the past year. That's an elderly man putting on 4 pounds of muscle. Keep that in mind. People don't realize that one of the main reasons that elderly end up in nursing homes is muscle loss. It's sarcopenia. It's a lack of mobility. Okay? That's what causes the falls, the broken hips, the head injuries, etc. And this can be corrected. Getting stuck and breaking through. Dr. Life stuck with his new program for several years, but at age 64, he hit a plateau, then began sliding back. He said, I stopped gaining muscle and started losing energy, he says. I just thought that I was finally getting older. I was thinking like traditional physicians think, which meant that I figured I had to give in to getting weaker, losing muscle mass and getting fatter. The confusing part for Dr. Life was that in order to counter this slide, he began training harder and even than ever, but he wasn't seeing the results. Around this time, he came across a brochure in Las Vegas about a medical meeting that dealt with the role of exercise and nutrition played in correcting hormonal deficiencies. After attending that meeting, Dr. Life began wondering about his own hormone levels. He says, I had my own hormones checked and found I was profoundly deficient in testosterone and DHEA and growth hormone. He said, I was surprised but relieved the deficiencies explained my loss of muscle mass, strength, and endurance, and why I was also accumulating body fat and battling low energy levels. Now, what I want people to understand here, people like to say that you're supposed to lose testosterone and you're supposed to lose growth hormone and you're supposed to lose DHEA as you get older. Okay, now what I would like to point out, people are more than welcome, in my opinion. I don't care if people are transgendered. I look at it like as long as they're an adult. Okay, I don't care if somebody's a transgendered adult. Okay, but the thing is, they're more than likely to put a woman, a young adult woman, an 18-year-old woman, on powerful testosterone therapy. But yet, if a man tries to get testosterone replacement therapy, they start saying, oh, who do you think you are, Arnold Schwarzenegger? What do you think you're doing with that, huh? Trying to become Barry Bonds or something? You know, the problem is because of the abuse of by athletes of these substances, they're looked at very negatively, but in reality, these are substances that can help heal a lot of the problems the elderly have. So prior to starting the hormone supplement, Dr. Life says he studied up on the concept tremendously. He recalls that at the time it was thought that these hormones put people at greater risk for getting cancer. What he discovered was that the people with the lowest levels of hormones have the greatest risk. The conventional wisdom that he heard was wrong. Once I started supplementing, within a week, I was feeling better, Dr. Life says. 2 weeks later, I was gaining strength again. Comprehensive multivitamin and these are his supplements, okay? Comprehensive multivitamin and multimineral supplement, essential fatty acids, probiotic supplement, vitamin D3, coenzyme Q10, saw palmetto, lycopene, milk thistle, calcium, French maritime pine bark, L-arginine. Practicing what you preach. 6 years after winning the Body for Life contest, Dr. Life decided to have some photos taken to prove to his patients that he lived the life he talked about. The photos are almost too striking to believe. Dr. Life, now 72 years old, has the muscle mass of a man half his age. It has been 13 years since I started this journey of transformation, Life says. What's so exciting is that not only do I feel great, I've been able to improve my physique over the years. I have been able to stay lean, reduce my cholesterol levels, reduce inflammation, reduce blood sugar levels, and avoid diabetes. Even more important is that Dr. Life and his cardiologist believe that had he not entered, now this is important to understand, like I said, if you saw him when he was 58, I don't know if, there he is. Okay, look at this guy. I don't know if it'll, no, okay. Look at him. Do you think he had many years left in his life being built like that? Now look at him. Okay, you see what I'm saying? So he, like this says, he and his cardiologist believe that if he had not entered into the exercise and nutrition program, he would not be here today. I believe that. If you look at him, I believe that. In the beginning, Dr. Life admits that the physical training was very difficult and he was sore. Once the soreness went away, however, the idea of working out fueled him and he looks forward to each of his training sessions. The nutrition side is where he really had to make a commitment and stick to it. The hardest concept I had to grasp and that I have to explain to people is that you can lose body fat and gain muscle mass without starving. Keep that in mind. You can lose body fat and gain muscle mass without starving. If you starve, you'll lose both, but it's harder to lose body fat. So, coupled with this concept was the idea that I had, meaning him, had to get across to people that small, frequent meals are better than 2 big meals a day. One of the keys Now that's similar to the Zone diet. If you read the Zone diet, or if you read, say, Dr. Perricone's Wrinkle Cure, one of the keys to Dr. Life's success was that he decided that he had to plan out each and every one of his meals. It's important that we understand this. A lot of these age management physicians, they promote the same things, and people will go, well, that's plagiarism, and that's this, and that's that, da-da-da-da-da-da. It's because that's what works. You got to keep that in mind. Our physiology is such a way. It's what works. So planning ahead and having nutritious food on you at all times is the only way to succeed, he says. When I travel, I carry around a cooler with me of healthy food. If you leave for the day and you don't know where you're going to eat, you will fail. When it comes to maintaining your health, failure is not an option, which is why he wrote the book, The Life Plan, How Any Man Can Achieve Lasting Health, Great Sex, and a Stronger, Leaner Body. The book is the culmination of all that Dr. Life has learned in his quest for health and fitness. Its basic goal is to prevent disease. Its basic goal is to prevent disease rather than fix it. Prevent disease, not fix it. Prevent disease rather than fix it. A concept that life extension readers are very familiar with. Editor's note, blah, blah, blah. Okay. And I'm going to call that a day for this video. I might make future videos about Dr. Life. I might cover some of his other videos. I think that he is a very inspirational gentleman, and I think people should own all three of his books, Life Plan, Mastering the Life Plan, and the Life Plan Diet.